Not been here for the last 4 weeks. We've been in this series called Dirty Laundry, and we've been talking a little bit about just some of the dirty laundry that we deal with, some of the things in our past, maybe even in our present, that we struggle with, that maybe the world has judged us for, and we need to just pull it out for a minute, deal with it, ask for forgiveness from someone, ask for forgiveness from God, and then be done with the dirty laundry. All right, so if you're here, or you are here this week, because you're here this week, you're brilliant, right? You're here for week 4, so you get the end, right? And you also get to hear about what's coming up next week, which I'm going to tell you about in just a second. But before that, let me tell you what this week is all about. This week, we talked about like pre-treating and washing and all that good stuff in laundry. This week, we're going to talk about kind of a weird topic, other people's laundry. Other people's laundry, because, you always like to get into other people's laundry, right? Probably not, but week 4 is going to be titled Other People's Laundry. All right, so this week we're going to talk about that. In about a month, we're going to have this event called Spooktacular. Grayson, go ahead and put that slide up on the screen real quick for Spooktacular. All right, there you go. So I just want to say a couple of words about this real quick. Spooktacular it was huge last year. We had about 1,200 people here. We gave away 1,200 hot dogs and bags of chips, and it was crazy. We're praying and hoping that this year will be at least as big, maybe a little bit bigger. We will see. I'm going to be relying on all of you to get the word out. The reason that we had 1,200 people last year is because we went door to door. You guys, you took invite cards and flyers and posters to businesses. I'll have that stuff printed and ready to go next week. If you were here last year, we took like a Sunday morning and we all went out together and we went door to door. We're going to make that available to you this year, like as your life group, to be able to go out and to invite people, maybe, adopt a street or a neighborhood or whatever and go invite. So that's going to be available this year. The biggest thing that I want to point out to you is it's a crowd, right? It's a crowd of people. Even if we only had, say, 500 people here and not 1,200 this year, even if we had a smaller number, we still, as a church, this is the one of, if not the biggest opportunity we will have this year to love on our neighbors. We will have more people on this campus on Sunday night, October 28th, than we probably will at Christmas or at Easter. And I know that sounds weird, because Easter is the Super Bowl for churches. Most churches, Easter is their biggest crowd. Most churches, Christmas is their second biggest crowd. And most churches don't even care about Halloween, okay? So here, Halloween could be and probably will be our biggest crowd. So it's all hands on deck. If you're planning to not come that night, be here anyway. We're going to need people to lead and guide and direct and greet and shake hands and give out candy and trunks and all that kind of stuff. And the goal is, yes, we will have fun. The goal is, yes, we're going to give a bunch of stuff away. Yes, we're going to spend money. But that's not the goal. The goal is to point people to Christ. The goal is to be for our community, to be for our neighbors. We get them on campus. We take about, we'll do a little worship in here at 5:30, and then again at 6:30. It'll be very short, about a 30-minute service. As people come in, we'll sing. I'll speak for like 5 or 10 minutes. I know that's hard to believe, but it happened last year. And then we'll do a giveaway, right? A quicker giveaway this year than we did last year. But we'll do a giveaway, and then we'll send people out to go get candy. And it's just a great way for us to get our community on our campus. And last year, people came and then they came back. A lot of the growth that we have experienced this year is really a result of Halloween. We got growth after Christmas, we got growth after Easter, but Halloween was our biggest growth weekend. So be a part of it. You're a part of our church family. I just want to encourage you every week between now and then. I probably won't say this much every week, but because this is we're a month away, right? The 28th is a month away. We're just a few weeks away from Halloween. Get your kids' costumes, buy a whole bunch of candy, and plan to be here on the 28th. Now, all that being said, we're launching a new series next week. I want to give you a really a brief preview about what that's all about. Play that, Grayson. goes. Bring my lights back up here. That's all right. A little spooky series coming up next week. For a few weeks, we're going to talk about really the Holy Spirit, all right? And I want you to invite people, invite them for the next series like we always do, but invite people for Halloween, right? This next series, we're going to be creative like we were last year. We won't have monsters up where the drum kit is right now. If you were here last year, you remember that. We'll do something different, but the stage is going to be different next week. We're going to pull out some new stops for Halloween and do something a little different. We're going to have some fun. So come next week as we launch the next series. This week, we're finishing up Dirty Laundry chapter 4. If you got your Bibles, open up to Matthew chapter 12. We're going to be there in just a second. Obviously, the verses, most of the verses will be up on the screen this week like they normally are. If you've got a digital copy of God's Word, open your app, go to Matthew chapter 12. Let me set the stage for you. So in Matthew chapter 12, Jesus is alive. He has not died and risen again and gone back up into heaven yet. In Matthew 12, he's traveling, he's teaching, he's got the disciples with him. And what we're going to read about is actually an exchange that Jesus has with a group of Pharisees, all right? With a group of Pharisees. And before we read it, I want to kind of get your opinion on something. I need a little feedback. Can everybody say yes? Yes? Okay. So these are going to be like yes and no questions. Very simple. It's going to be like one yes and no question and then another yes and no question. So let's practice. Everybody say yes. Everybody say no. Okay, good. So you're with me. I always preach better when you respond. Okay, so let me describe a scenario for you. Let's say that there's something going on in your life. Maybe you're sick. Maybe you have the birth of a new child. We have a new child to welcome into our family this week. The Reeses had their baby Everline, right? Did I say that right? Okay, Everline. I want to say Everlyn, but Everline. She's here. Maybe something like that's going on in your life. Birth of a baby. You're sick. Whatever's going on. You can't do your normal routine. You're in the bed. You're just kind of out of sorts for a long time, right? For like more than a week. Maybe it's a month. Maybe it's 2 months. Something's going on in life. Maybe it's depression. I don't know what it is. But you're just basically out of commission. Just imagine yourself out of commission for at least a month. And you get a phone call. It's your mom, it's your dad, it's a best friend, it's maybe somebody from church in your life group. You get a phone call, and in that phone call, what they tell you is, listen, we realize that things are kind of crazy right now, that life's not going the way you expected it to go, and we want to be able to help, right? So what we would love to do is come over. We're gonna bring you a meal, and I know that you haven't been able to do your laundry, so we're gonna come in, and we're gonna clean your house. We're gonna bring you a meal, clean your house, and do your laundry and fold it all for you, and your 4 or 5 or 6 kids, right? We're going to handle all of that for you. Is that a good thing, yes or no? Yes, that's what we should do. There are times in life when it would be good if somebody saw our dirty laundry, right? That it would be good for us, it would be good for them, it would be good for us to go and help somebody. It might be a little weird, like that may be the 30 seconds that you jump out of bed and you're, digging through the laundry hamper because there's that one thing in there that you don't want anybody to see, right? You may have that moment of, like, that's a little too stained or, whatever it is, and we're just going to put that aside. But they can do everything else, right? That's a good thing. As a matter of fact, we had some very good friends of ours, Nick and Meredith Nardone. They just had their second child recently. Friends from South Florida. We love them. They're in ministry, been in ministry with us for years. And when we first met Nick and Meredith, they weren't married, and Meredith was a babysitter. Meredith was one of our babysitters. And one of the most awesome things about Meredith is she would come to our house and keep our 4 kids and do laundry. Like, she cleaned the kitchen, she did laundry, she folded it. Every time we came home, the dishes were clean and the laundry was done. The only babysitter we've ever had that did that, which is why we love them both so much. I'm just kidding. I mean, they're amazing, but she was just amazing about that. It was one of those times that I didn't mind somebody else like folding my socks. Like, I'm good with that, If she's going to clean it, and I didn't pay her extra. It was just, what we did for a babysitter. And she was just amazing. It was awesome. Okay, so let me different scenario. Same kind of scenario. You're out of commission for about a month, right? Things are going crazy. You get a call from a friend, from a family member, whatever. Hey, I'm going to come over and I'm going to take care of everything. We're going to bring you a meal. We're going to take care of everything in your house. We're going to take care of your laundry. And they show up, give you the meal, do what they say they're going to do as far as taking care of the house. But the way that they take care of your dirty laundry is they just take it all, they gather it all up, in your kid's bedroom floor, your bathroom floor. They get all your dirty laundry from around the house, and they go out in your front yard and they just sort of sprinkle it in your bushes. Good thing, yes or no? No. That's not how you treat someone else's dirty laundry. You don't sprinkle it out there for the whole world to see. You don't put it out there for all of their neighbors to see and to smell, right? That's not what you do. But that's what we do all the time. That's what people do regularly, and it's just a part of our normal everyday lives, and we don't even sometimes realize that that is what we are doing. And that's actually what is happening in Matthew chapter 12. So let's read just a little bit. So Matthew chapter 12, verse 22, this is what it says. Then a demon-possessed man who was blind and couldn't speak was brought to Jesus. Okay, that's a good thing. Jesus healed the man so that he could both speak and see. Another good thing. The crowd was amazed and asked, could it be that Jesus is the son of David, the Messiah? Stop right there. Just pause for a second. All right? Jesus, the friend of sinners, a great guy. He's got something crazy going on in his life. This demon-possessed man, obviously, he's got something crazy going on in his life. The two of them get together. Jesus performs a miracle, heals the man who is demon-possessed, and the crowd responds. The crowd says something, and what they say, they actually ask a question. Could it be that Jesus is the son of David, the Messiah? Is that a good thing? Is that a good question to ask? Yes. Yes. They're drawn in. They see the power of Jesus. They see that something different, something weird, something unusual is going on, and they ask an honest question. They respond publicly in an honest way. They ask this positive question. All right, now keep reading with me. Verse 24, it says this. But when the Pharisees heard about the miracle, they said, no wonder he can cast out demons. He gets his power from Satan, the prince of demons. Does that sound like a good response, a good comment? No. It's a negative response, a negative comment. What the Pharisees are doing is they're spreading discord and strife. And then as you keep reading in Matthew chapter 12, Jesus sort of goes back and forth with the Pharisees. He corrects them. He says, listen, you guys, when you cast out demons, you cast out demons, right? Yes. Okay, so did that power come from heaven or did it come from hell? Is it from God, our Father above, or is it from Satan, the prince of demons? And they don't really have a response to that. What Jesus is saying is, listen, guys, you're just talking to hear yourselves talk. You've got idle words that don't mean anything. You're trying to ruin me and ruin my ministry by spreading rumors and telling lies that are not true. What do we call that when someone spreads rumors and lies that are not true? Gossip. Gossip. I heard somebody say slander and some other stuff, but gossip. It's gossip. Sometimes gossip is true. Sometimes gossip is not. But either way, it's gossip. So last night I'm sitting on the couch. We're trying to watch the game. We're watching Ole Miss just tear up the penalties. I mean, they got so many yards in penalties. It was awesome. Not really. It was horrible because they lost. So we're sitting there, and I'm literally falling asleep. I'm working on my message, but I'm in and out trying to watch the game and finalize this and, thinking about everything. And Stephanie says, hey, did you see that commercial about gossip? And I'm like, I fell asleep. I have no idea. You should play that tomorrow. So at the request of my wife, everyone watch the screen. We need audio. Restart it.
Craig and Sheila.
What do you mean it's not working out, Craig? I mean, I just introduced you to my parents.
Psst, Craig and Sheila broke up.
What? Really? Craig and Sheila broke up? No, Craig and Sheila broke up. Craig and Sheila broke up.
Craig and Sheila.
As long as office gossip travels fast, you can count on Geico saving folks money.
Craig and Sheila broke up. What?
15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Okay. That may be the funniest commercial I've ever seen, especially when he spits his coffee out at the end. What? But is that not really typical of an office environment? I don't care whether you work in an office, you work in a garage, you're a mechanic, you're a teacher, you work at a school, whatever. How many of you thought that when you graduated high school or college that you would not go back to junior high? Raise your hand. Okay. Now, if you feel like your workplace is just like junior high or middle school, raise your hand. Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, like the vast majority of us, that's the way that commercial, that's why that commercial is so popular, right? That's why Geico did that, because we can all relate to gossip. We can all relate to people talking about everybody else's dirty laundry, everybody else's secrets, everybody else's business. Right or wrong, true or false, gossip is gossip. And when the Pharisees say to Jesus or say about Jesus, see, he's just listening to the prince of demons. All right, that's false. That's a lie, but it was gossip. Even if it was true, the reason that they were spreading it, the way that they were talking about it, was to demean Jesus and to tarnish his ministry. Obviously, if that was true, that'd be horrible. But even if they'd made a true statement, but they used the truth, because that's what Satan does. Satan likes to even use the truth sometimes to hinder us, to tarnish, to diminish our ministry. Even if it was true, if that's what it's used for, it's still gossip. And so Jesus responds. He responded. He doesn't ignore it. He responds back to it. He corrects them. He will not let the lie stand. And he even coaches them, and he coaches us in the meantime, because it's all about life change. This is a heart issue. This isn't behavior modification. When Jesus continues to teach, and the lesson for us today, it's not about just modifying our behavior. It's not about not talking to anybody. It's about a heart change, because what gossip is a reflection of what's going on in our hearts. That's the dirty laundry. So here's what he says in verse 34. He continues, you brood of snakes, how could evil men like you speak what is good and right? For whatever is in your heart determines what you say. A good person produces good things from the treasury of a good heart, and an evil person produces evil things from the treasury of an evil heart. And I tell you this, you must give an account on judgment day for every idle word you speak. The words you say will either acquit you or condemn you. The words you say will either acquit you or condemn you. Let's go back to Matthew 12:34 real quick and focus on the second half of that verse. It says this, for whatever is in your heart determines what you will say. Whatever is in your heart determines what you will say. What that means is that the reverse is true. That whatever you say is a reflection of what's going on in your heart. And sometimes we think, well, gossip is no big deal. Like, everybody does it. I mean, you saw that commercial, right? Like, everybody talks about it. It's true. They're really breaking up. It's true. The marriage is really ending. It's true. He's about to quit the job. It's all true. Everybody does it. The problem is what's going on in our hearts when we gossip is not a good thing. What's going on in our hearts when we're saying negative words, we're showing that there's negativity in our hearts. When we are causing distrust, we're being disloyal, we're breaking a confidence. What we are showing about ourselves and our hearts is that we can't be trusted, that we are not loyal people, that who we are at our core in our heart is somebody that nobody should tell a secret to. True or false, we're going to share it with the world. That's what gossip is. It's a reflection of what's going on in our hearts. Plus, God has some not so kind things to say about people who gossip. Proverbs 6:16 and 19 says this, there are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him. A false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community. The word gossip is not in there, but this is actually, they're both gossip. A person who pours out lies, we would call that person maybe a slanderer, a liar, whatever. But it's a person who gossips. It's a person who gossips, and the substance of their gossip is false. It's a lie. But then also a person who stirs up conflict in the community. This is a person who's also gossiping. Yes, it may be true, but they're using that true gossip, those true facts that nobody's supposed to know about, that nobody would really care about if they never found out, but they will use that to stir up tension and conflict and strife, break up families, break up relationships, friendships, maybe even harm businesses and organizations because they just want keep their mouth shut. That's what a gossip does. Proverbs 18:8 says this: rumors are dainty morsels that sink deep into one's heart. Rumors are dainty morsels that sink deep into one's heart. Why is it that we gossip? Why do we participate in gossip? Because it tastes good. Because it feels good. It's like the perfect little bite when Satan shows up at our heart's door and says, and tempts us to say something, to do something, to say something to somebody else about something that somebody did, right? Good or bad. It's so hard to say no because it's like this perfect little bite. I don't know if your favorite dessert is chocolate or your favorite food is pizza or whatever your favorite food is, just sort of imagine it. And what Proverbs says is gossip is like that favorite food. It's this dainty morsel. It's the perfect little bite. The problem is, like Eve and Adam in the garden when she took the fruit and bit of it, it was sin. And when we swallow that dainty morsel, the Bible says it goes deep into our hearts. It may, for a moment, cause you to feel good about yourself, because you know more than everybody else, right? I mean, that's one of the reasons that you gossip, right? When it's something true, like you heard this juicy news, right? And everybody needs to hear about it because that's what you do in the office. That's what you do in the shop. That's what you do wherever it is that you work or with your family, right? You pick up the phone and everybody needs to know. You just want everybody to know what you know. And then they know, and so then they want everybody to know what they know because if you know more than somebody else knows, you're better than them somehow. Sometimes we spread gossip just because it makes us feel good. We don't care how it makes somebody else feel, but it makes us feel good because we know more than everybody else. Some people spread gossip, frankly, because they want to hurt people. And if that's you, just stop it. But that's one of the reasons that we spread gossip. Some of us, we're just we don't really want to hurt people. It's not about us knowing more. But if we were honest, we're just a little dissatisfied with life. We don't really like where we are right now. And we're not really happy when other people are happy because for whatever reason, we're jealous of them. And so sometimes what we will do is we'll spread gossip and we'll spread rumors because we're dissatisfied. We don't really intend to hurt, but we just think everybody else ought to be dissatisfied along with us. And so if somebody receives bad news and we find out about the bad news, we'll share the bad news, and we may even call it a prayer request. But we'll share the bad news so that everybody else feels bad just like we feel bad and they feel bad. We just think everybody ought to feel bad together, and everybody ought to be dissatisfied with life. It doesn't really matter why you participate in gossip. There is not a single good reason. There is not a single good reason to gossip, and yet we do it. So I want to ask 3 questions this morning as you think about, am I gossiping? Am I participating in gossip? And why do I participate in gossip? I want to ask 3 questions that will help us identify, is this gossip? Is it not gossip? And what do I need to quit? Because we need to take care of our own dirty laundry, right? Not everybody else's. Even though this morning we're talking about, by gossiping, everybody else's dirty laundry, right? So question number 1, is my conversation helpful or hurtful? That's the first kind of step in identifying, is this gossip? Is it helpful or hurtful? Ephesians 4:29 says this: do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up. I remember when I was in high school, middle school and high school, here at the church at Lake Forest. Some of you might remember Darren Cobb. He was our student pastor here at the time. Darren was a great leader, still is. And what Darren taught me and our students back then that we will never forget, many of us will never forget, is he would just walk up past us and like snap his fingers and say 429 over and over and over again because he was drilling this verse. We'd say, "What, like Darren, what are you talking about?" He'd say 429. What are you talking about? I don't understand what that means, Darren. Just tell me. Look up Ephesians. You have a Bible. Look up Ephesians 4:29. Get it out, look it up, read it, and then do it. And we would read this verse. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is good for building others up. And it continues only what is good for building others up according to their needs, so that it would benefit all who listen, all who hear it. Like he wanted to drill in us in middle school, high school, because what did? We cut other people down. right? We would say things to hurt people on purpose. We would make fun of them on purpose, and that was our habit. That was the habit that we got into. Sometimes in gossip, we say things that are hurtful, and it's just a habit. We don't mean to hurt people. We don't realize that we're hurting people. We just say things about people. We share information that we hear, and we don't even realize that if they heard us talking about them, that it would hurt them. And we don't realize that we are hurting them, and we are hurting ourselves, and we are hurting the people that we are talking to. Is what you are saying, is the conversation you are having, is it hurtful or helpful? Proverbs 16, 27 and 28 says this: scoundrels create trouble. Their words are a destructive blaze. Their words are a destructive blaze. The gossip that you spread can light somebody's world on fire. We are seeing that right now in our federal government, in our judicial review system. Right or wrong, positive or negative, I don't care which side of the aisle you're on, what we are seeing right now is a blaze in Washington, D.C. If you've been keeping up with the judicial nomination for our next Supreme Court justice, it's a blaze, it's a fire. If you don't watch news, you have no idea what's going on. But if you've turned on news at all this week, if you've read any newspaper, any website that has anything to do with politics, like, you know that D.C. is on fire. Now, 2 weeks from now, everybody will forget about it, right? But today, it's on fire, and a man's life is being burned up. Guilty or innocent, he's being burned up because of somebody's words, because of an accusation that can be made. And if that accusation is true, it's true. But if it's false, it's burning his life down. Whether or not it's true, our words can set somebody's life on fire. The words of a dishonest, a scoundrel, can set someone's world ablaze. Verse 28 says this: a troublemaker plants seeds of strife, and gossip separates the best of friends. Gossip separates friendships. And we do it all the time, and we don't even realize that we can ruin somebody's life by the words that are coming out of our mouth. So is my conversation helpful or hurtful? What we would say is, hey, it's true, right? Like, what I'm saying is true. Come on, Pastor. I'm not saying anything false. I'm not lying about somebody. The words coming out of my mouth, they are true. Here's a principle to live by. This doesn't come straight from Scripture. This is my interpretation. But here's a principle to live by. Everything that is said should be true, but everything that is true should not necessarily be said. Everything that is said should be true. The words that come out of your mouth, they should be true. The things that you say, they should be true. But not everything that you know is true must be said. You don't have to share all of the knowledge that's in your head. You don't have to. When you do, it should be true, but you don't have to share it just because it is. Here's what Pastor Rick Warren says. When we are talking about a situation with somebody who is neither part of the problem or part of the solution, then we're probably gossiping. When we think about, is our conversation helpful or hurtful? Like, let's say you're in a small group, right? You're part of one of our church small groups, and you're going to share a prayer request, okay? Sometimes people ask us to pray for them, and we share prayer requests about them. But here's how you know if your prayer request has turned into a gossip fest. By following what Pastor Rick says. If the people you're talking to, the people you're having a conversation with, if they're not part of the problem, the pain and the problem that you're sharing, if nobody in the room is a part of that problem or a part of the solution, someone who can actually do something about it, someone who can actually help. Like, as a group, you've decided that more than just praying, you're going to go take care of that physical need. You're going to go visit them in the hospital. When you're just sharing information, and the person whose information you're sharing, they didn't give you permission to, right? And the people that you're sharing it with, they're not a part of either the problem or the solution, then it's probably gossip that you're sharing. Even when you feel like it's innocent, it still may be gossip, probably is gossip. Question number 2, am I making private matters public? Am I making private matters public? That's really what I was talking about just a second ago with a prayer request. Sometimes we make private matters public. Here's what Proverbs has to say about that. Proverbs 11, verses 12 and 13 says this: It is foolish to belittle one's neighbor. A sensible person keeps quiet. A gossip goes around telling secrets, but those who are trustworthy can keep a confidence. A gossip tells secrets, and God hates gossip. And if you're sharing publicly what somebody said to you privately, you are guilty of airing someone else's dirty laundry. True or false, right or wrong, it's gossip. And the Lord detests that. He finds it detestable when we go around telling someone's secrets. You know, if someone's marriage is struggling and they've come to you privately and they've talked to you about it and you're praying for them, maybe they've even shared it with 2 or 3 other people, you're praying for them and they share that with you privately. Sometimes what can happen at church, this is what happens at church. It can be an addiction, it can be a struggling marriage, it can be whatever. But somebody shares something with you in confidence, and then you mistakenly think, well, my small group, I can trust them, I love them, they love me. We all love this person that we want to pray for the addiction, for the struggling marriage, whatever it is. And so I'm going to share with my small group this prayer request, which sounds like a good thing. But if that information was shared with you in confidence, and this small group is neither the person who's hurting or helping in any way other than prayer, it's probably going to be hurtful in the end. Because here's what happens. Not everybody in your small group can keep a secret. You couldn't because you just shared it in your small group. And then you start praying for the person. And then they share it in another small group. Before you know it, in a church our size, it only takes like about as long as that Geico commercial for everybody to know everybody else's business and what's going on. And then it comes back to the person that shared it with you. And they're not sure if you told it or if somebody else that they shared it with told it, but they trusted you and they trusted that other person. And your relationship can break down. But here's what happens in a marriage. Here's what happens in a struggling marriage. The other spouse finds out. And the other spouse doesn't want to come to church anymore because now everybody knows their business. Maybe it's an addiction that you shared about one of your kids or one of your friends. And then that kid or that friend comes to church and they find out about it. You know what? They never want to come back again because everybody knows that they had this struggle. Everybody knows their dirty laundry. Everybody has shown up at their door and you went over to help them, but what you ended up doing was sprinkle all their dirty underwear in the bushes in front of their house. And now everybody knows. Some things that are private should remain private until the person that's struggling with it decides to take it public. And even in our good intentions, sometimes we hurt more than we help because what are we doing? We're spreading gossip. And gossip can set someone's world on fire. Another reason that we shouldn't gossip is we need to protect ourselves and we need to protect others, right? Like in the scenario that I just shared with you, we want to protect them. Proverbs 25:9-10 says this: when arguing with your neighbor, don't betray another person's secret. Others may accuse you of gossip, and you will never regain your good reputation. When you spread gossip, when you take a private matter public, you're running the risk of hurting yourself. When the person finds out about it, they may no longer want to be your friend. They may no longer want to come to church. Just because you made it a prayer request doesn't make it a good thing. And it could ruin your good reputation. Why do you not gossip? To protect yourself and to protect other people. Question number 3. Am I permitting others to gossip? Am I permitting others to gossip? Because what you may say is, I don't talk about it. I like to hear about it. But I don't spread, like people can tell me anything. I can keep all kinds of secrets, and they do. They tell me all kinds of stuff. Like you may say that about yourself. I mean, I don't keep good secrets. Sometimes I do, but my wife will tell you it's hard for me to give a Christmas present that everybody doesn't already know about because I'll tell everybody eventually. I always tell her. Maybe it's just her. But anyway, it's hard for me to keep secrets. But the reality is sometimes we like hearing it. We like all the information, and we may not talk about it. But we may permit other people to gossip to us. Proverbs 17:4 says this: wrongdoers eagerly listen to gossip. Liars pay close attention to slander. It's not only what's going on with your mouth, sometimes it's what's going on with your ears. Even though Jesus said what's in your heart is going to come out of your mouth, What he could have said is, what goes in your ears goes into your heart. I think that's Proverbs 4:23, above all else guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. It controls everything that you do. One of the ways that you guard your heart is to guard your ears. Because when you stand around listening to gossip, your heart is changing. Just like what's coming out of your mouth is a reflection of what's going on in your heart, what's going into your ears is also a reflection of how your heart is being changed. Evildoers, liars, wicked people listen to gossip. Wicked people lean in just so they can catch a little bit of that conversation going on. That's what Proverbs says about us when we listen to gossip. Here's another principle to live by. It's not up on the screen, I don't think, but yeah, it is. What you permit, you promote. So you think, like, I'm just listening. It's not a bit, like, I'm not talking about anybody. I'm sitting here and all this conversation is happening around me and I'm just listening. But when you permit gossip to continue around you and you just let it go on and on and on, what you're actually doing is you're promoting that. You're allowing it to continue. Now, it may continue outside of your presence, but you can control what your activity is. You can control what your attitude is toward gossip. At the very least, you can get up and walk away, right? I mean, but the next step is to actually say something about it. You don't have to permit what you are listening to. You don't have to permit the gossip, because if you permit it, you're promoting it. So here's a couple of steps, a couple of things. This won't be up on the screen, but here's a subtle thing you could do. You could just say to somebody, hey, I'm not really feeling very comfortable with this conversation. And maybe at that point you get up and leave. But it's subtle. I'm not really comfortable talking about that. And they may ask you why, and you don't have to like pull out your Bible and bash them over the head and say, because it's gossip and it's sin. You know, just say something like, you know what, like Joe's not here right now, and I don't like talking about Joe behind his back, or you know, whatever it is. It's subtle. I'm not really very comfortable with this conversation. Here's showing some caring, like, if Joe knew we were talking about him, I think he would be hurt. Like, that's kind of that next level. If Joe knew we were talking about this, I think this would hurt him. That gives just a little bit of responsibility for the hurt that you're communicating to the person that you're talking to. Hey, I don't want to be responsible for their hurt, and I don't want you to be responsible for them either. What that shows is I care enough about me and enough about you and enough about Joe that I don't want any of us to get hurt. So let's just calm down the conversation. Here's a biblical response. The biblical response is, you know what? I'll tell you what, I hear what you're saying, and it may be true. I totally get it. But if you have a problem with them, maybe you should go talk to them about it. See, that's the biblical response. We're told that if we have a fault with one of our brothers or sisters, that we should go and we should talk with them. Whether it's us apologizing to them or calling them out on their sin, on what they've done wrong, and holding them accountable. It's about us going to them. In a previous church situation where we had a lot of staff, I had a lot of staff under me, and I had a boss over me, and then some staff beside me. My boss over me, whenever anybody would go past me or would go past one of my other teammates, someone that worked for us, and would go to our boss to complain about us, the first question he would ask them, he would just kind of stop them like mid-sentence when they would go in with, Pastor Chris did this to me. He would just like pause, hang on a second. I don't want to hear the rest of it. Have you talked to him first? And if they said yes, and he refuses to apologize, he won't do anything about it, yada, 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 he would say, okay, so then let's talk, because you've handled it the right way, and so now maybe I need to be a part of the conversation. But I can tell you that in 3.5 years there under that boss, not a single person ever said, yes, I've already talked to him about me or about anybody else, because they hadn't. They want to go above and around, and they want to gossip, right? And if you're in that situation at work, because that's when it happens most of the time at work, we'll go to a boss and we'll complain about somebody else. But did you ever talk to your coworker? Or did you ever talk to your supervisor before you went to their supervisor? Because if you didn't, biblically, that's the way it should work. And so when people come to us and they complain to us about what somebody else did to them, what we should say back to them is, whoa, hang on a second. Have you had this conversation with them? Because I know Chris pretty well, and I'm pretty sure that he wouldn't let that stand. I'm pretty sure that he would apologize. I'm pretty sure that if he knew how you felt about it, that he would make it right. That's the biblical response. And then it's just a very direct response to people who gossip all the time is say, look, if you just keep talking about Joe, if you keep talking about all this all the time, I'm sorry, I just I can't hang out with you. Like, you can't talk this way about people and me remain in a relationship with you, a close friend. I'm not saying break off everything, but if all you hear is gossip around somebody, that's not the kind of person that you want to be around very often. Because what you're hearing, what you're listening to, what's going in your ears is changing your heart, and you don't even realize it. That should be one of our responses. All right. If someone you work with, talk to, or related to gossips about somebody else, I just want you to remember this. If they'll gossip about somebody else, they'll gossip about you. So your response should be a caring, biblical, direct, maybe sometimes subtle response. But if they're going to gossip about somebody else, they're going to gossip about you. And you don't want your world set on fire any more than anybody else wants to be set on fire. So, when can I talk about somebody? Like, what? Okay, Pastor Chris, I got it. Like, I think everything I've said this week has been gossip. So, when is it okay for me to talk about somebody else? It's very rare that you're going to talk about a third party who's not there and it not be gossip. But there are times when you can talk about somebody else, and biblically, it's not gossip. When you say something constructive about somebody else that you would say in front of them, it's not gossip. Best boss I've ever had, his name is Raul Palacios. The story I told you just a minute ago about somebody going above me and talking to my supervisor, his name was Raul Palacios. Love the man. I think he's the best boss that's ever walked the face of the earth. He's better than any boss that any of you have. Constructive. Third party. I'm praising him, and I have said it in his presence, and I would say it again in his presence. That is not gossip. So if you're in a situation where you have the opportunity to praise somebody publicly while they're not there, do it. You know, Hannah and Robbie over in the children's ministry, and they're not in the room this morning. They're a third party. They're not present. They're doing a great job, right? Are they going to get some things wrong in the future? Probably so. I'm not going to come spread the rumors about it. But what I will say about them all the time publicly and all the rest of my staff is that they're working hard. They're doing a good job. They're doing the best that they can do. And we are seeing the results of their hard work, and we will continue to see the results of their hard work. Third party, not in the room, I'm praising them. I would say something constructive just like that in front of them, and I have. That's not gossip. One other, a second situation. When every person in the conversation wants to help. When every person in the conversation wants to help and possibly can, it's not gossip. Very clear scenario. Somebody's dealing with an addiction. Maybe it's an alcohol problem, and they really need rehab. You know, maybe it's even the situation where they're so off the charts addicted, and maybe it's a child, a teenager, whatever, that they need to be taken somewhere, or there needs to be an intervention, whatever that is. When everybody in the room is like a family member, a close friend, whatever, they probably already know about it anyway because they've seen it. Maybe not everybody in the room does, but you know everybody in the room cares and wants to help. And what you need to do is to share the news with the people in the room so that the people in the room can formulate a plan about how they're going to help. It's not gossip, because then you're helping. Could it hurt the person in the moment? Like, could their feelings get hurt? I can't believe you shared this. Yes, it could. It may hurt them. I can't believe you shared that I have this addiction problem. Yeah, but dude, like, you've lost your job, your wife, your kids, whatever. You need some help, and we're going to help you whether you like it or not. That's not gossip. That's being the church. That's being for someone that you love. But when you just sit in the circle and you say, man, I can't wait to share with you what happened this week. You know, you already know he lost his job, and he lost his wife, and he lost his kids, but did you know he also lost this? That's gossip. That's gossip. So, when everyone is in the conversation wants to and can help the person, that's not gossip. Let me close with this. Your words matter. Your words matter. I know a lot of times we think that, we just talk all the time. We say stuff all the time. We don't really mean it, or we don't really mean to hurt anybody. We're just sharing news. We're whatever. Your words matter. The things that come out of your mouth matters. Let me take you back to Matthew chapter 12 again. This is the verse we read just a second ago. Matthew 12, 36 and 37. And I tell you this, the words of Jesus, You must give an account on Judgment Day for every idle word you would speak. The words you say will either acquit you or condemn you. Jesus said, every idle word that comes out of your mouth, you will be held accountable for. Your words matter, not just today, not just this week, but in eternity. Your words make a difference in your life, and your words make a difference in the lives of the people around you. And if your words are gossiping words, you're spreading other people's laundry out, you're going to get hurt. Your family's going to get hurt. The people that you may even say you care about, they're going to be hurt. And what may happen is that for eternity, their lives are changed. Someone who may have come to church, who may have come to Christ, who may have trusted you, can no longer trust you because you talked about them. You allowed someone else to talk about them. True or false, right or wrong, it was gossip. It hurt them. It can hurt your ministry. Your words matter. Proverbs 18:21 says this, the tongue can bring life or death. The tongue contains the power of death and life. Those who love to talk will reap the consequences. Wow. What you say makes a difference. The way that you use your mouth makes a difference. It can set your world on fire. It can set someone else's world on fire and burn it down. The good news is it can set your world on fire and it can set someone else's world on fire for Christ and be like a burning bush that never burns up, that the whole world sees, that brings light and life to the world because your mouth is filled with the things of Christ instead of filled with crud. Your tongue has the power to bring death or life. So what? So what? What's the point? Well, I hope that you don't get caught talking about somebody else. Instead, I hope you get caught saying good things about people, right? But the so what moment really is this. When you are for people and you're not against them, you get to be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. We say we're a church who's for people. Individually, if I asked you all, you would probably say, yeah, man, I'm for my neighbors. I'm for the next generation. I love what this church stands for. I love all of that. Well, if that's true, stop talking about people. If that's true, be a part of the solution, not part of the problem. And it starts with your mouth. When you are for people and not against people. And when you gossip, even when you don't even mean to be, what you don't realize is you're standing against people. You are opposing God's will. You are opposing what Jesus would have said about and said to the people that you're talking to and you're talking about. But when you are for people, when you show them love, you are for Christ. And when you are for Christ and filled with Christ, you are the solution. When you walk into your office cubicle and the little meerkat heads pop up, right? When you walk into your school that you teach at, when you walk into the garage that you work in, whatever it is, when you walk in and you bring Christ with you, the solution just walked in the door. It should not be the problem. As we wrap up Dirty Laundry, let's decide we're not going to spread everybody's dirty laundry around on the sidewalk in front of their house, put it out on their bushes, because we wouldn't want anybody to do that for us. Instead, we'll help them. We're not going to talk about them, we're going to talk to them. We're going to help be a part of the solution because we care about them. That's what Christ wants from us.